Do you know what the most coveted Salesforce certification is? There's so many contenders out there, right? Platform Developer 2, Application Architect, Advanced Admin, System Admin. But what if I told you that there's actually a certification that's even harder than all of those? It takes multiple years to study, costs thousands of dollars, and you actually sit in front of a review board, so no multiple choice. Well, there might be some multiple choice. Hey, Salesforce Ohana. Today we're going to be learning about the most prestigious Salesforce certification, in my opinion at least, the Certified Technical Architect. I'm Walters954 from SalesforceMentor.com, and let's jump into it. Some of you may have heard of CTAs before. These are Salesforce unicorns, right? Ultra rare, super technical, Salesforce geniuses. They live in and breathe Salesforce every second, every day of their life. CTAs gained the highest Salesforce achievement, at least at this point in time, by taking the hardest available test. They have a broad knowledge of the entirety of the Salesforce platform. They work on the hardest types of projects and the most complex projects. But some of you might be thinking, hey, what the heck do I know about CTAs, right? I'm not a CTA. And to those people, I would say you're pretty smart. You should always take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I actually brought on a certified technical architect to talk about his journey. So some of you may know him, Johann Furmann. I've got a ton of CTA related questions, but let's get to know him first, right?
Thank you very much, Warren, for having me. It's a great honor to be interviewed on your channel. Thank you very much for having me there. Before we get started, I would like to get the disclaimer out of the way. I am in no way affiliated with Salesforce. I do not work for Salesforce. All I'm talking about is my personal opinion. None of it is representative of Salesforce opinion. Everything I say is based on my personal experience and research. Please always make sure that you research the latest information from this official Salesforce documentation. And I will not share any details on the review board itself, since this is confidential and your review board experience might differ. Since we got this out of the way now, let me get started with my background. I'm a traditionally trained business management bachelor from a small university in Austria. And after this, I left Austria for Berlin, for the big city, and became part of the Berlin startup scene, in which I didn't leave for the last 10 years. About my hobbies, there is, I think, two different lives I had. There's the pre-COVID life and there's the COVID life. In my COVID life, or Corona, as we call it in Germany, I'm a very motivated homekeeper or housekeeper, I think is the English word for that. So I like to cook, to clean, get groceries for my partner, make sure the flat looks tidy and nice, and something nice to eat is on the table. And before COVID, my hobbies have been sport, meeting friends, the usual, just enjoying Berlin, but also going on traveling, vacation. And as you might know, Berlin is the party capital of Europe, so I really enjoyed going out. Maybe this comes back in the future. And my background is very traditional in this sense. So after I had a couple of years as a product manager in the Berlin startup scene, which I enjoyed very much, I discovered Salesforce. And within hours, I was hooked. Being able to add a field myself without writing a ticket for a developer, it was magic. And so I became a Salesforce admin. A shout out to my first employer who gave me a chance in becoming a Salesforce consultant or admin. And then I worked for a couple of years in different roles. I started out as an admin, then became a senior consultant and a technical product owner. And now I'm a freelance architect who helps customers build their Salesforce architecture. And this already leads me to the next question. Why did I decide to become a CTA? I mean, I had a pretty good job with an amazing team at here.com, Audi Bene, here in Berlin. Great team, great prospects. And nevertheless, I decided to become a CTA. There is, I think, two ways to look at it. The first one is, of course, career opportunities. I think in order to get ahead in life or even stay at the same level, you have to constantly evolve, change, challenge yourself. If you do the same thing for too long, you become stale and you become bored. So I did it also to have a broader available career opportunities. But the second also is I'm a nerd. Deep down in my heart, I'm a nerd and I will always stay a nerd. I like challenges. I like learning. There's nothing more fun for me than to get into the details and understand the nitty-gritty details of Salesforce licenses and try to figure out why the asset object is part of every Salesforce license. Therefore, the CTA was there, is there, and I had to take it. It's the hardest thing you can do in the Salesforce world, and therefore I needed to achieve that.
Salesforce Safe Harbor out of the way, Johann is kind of chipping away at some of the pre-existing ideas I had about CTA. He sounds just kind of like a normal person, right? He's got a life, he has a few hobbies, stuck in COVID like the rest of us, but he's worked for a handful of companies over the past few years, some in technical positions, some in business positions. So he's got a wide range and wealth of knowledge in business in general. But something must give, right? He has to be some sort of super genius, Salesforce savant, academic genius type of thing, right?
Do you need to be a genius? Absolutely not. There is some geniuses out there, no question. I'm not one of them. I think I'm not that smart. I'm not that well educated. I'm not that hardworking. Maybe, I'm not sure. At least I'm not the 80 to 100 hours guy. After all, the Salesforce, it's not rocket science, literally, it's sales and service. The Salesforce platform makes it really easy to follow, to build stuff, to understand stuff. Most of it is pretty logical. There's a couple of hundred things you have to memorize with brute force, like what limits for hourly platform events you have, or what's the API limit for enterprise edition versus unlimited edition. But besides that, it's all pretty straightforward. So therefore, no, you don't have to be a genius. What you have to enjoy solving puzzles. So if solving puzzles is something you enjoy, then becoming a CTA is quite fun because it's mostly just solving a puzzle. And the puzzles become more and more complex, but this is like any good computer game. It's easy to get in, it's hard to master. And a question I get asked pretty often, and you also have it here in your interview question list, do I need to know everything about Salesforce? The short answer is yes. The slightly more nuanced answer is almost everything. There's a couple of areas which you have to know, but you don't have to be an expert in. One example would be Marketing Cloud. You have to know what Marketing Cloud can do, what it can't do, what are the use cases, limitations, security, integrations, but you don't have to be expert in building journeys. And this is, at least as far as I know from my CTA experience, it was off limits. It might change in the future. Again, coming back, please check the latest documentation of Salesforce. There is a very detailed exam guide, which should be your Bible if you prepare for the CTA. And this leads to the other question, do I need to know how to code? Disclaimer here, I'm not a coder by trade. I know to code good enough to get by. I'm not the best coder by any means necessary. You have to understand what code can do, what code can't do. You need to know about principles, like what can a trigger handler do, what should the trigger framework achieve, what are some best practices. I think, this is my personal opinion, as a CTA, you should be able to fix simple bugs, or at least be able to read code on a proper level. And this also, for example, I was really weak on JavaScript. This is why the last couple of weeks I was brushing up on my JavaScript knowledge. Will I become a Lightning Web Components full-time developer? Absolutely not. And do you have to be a really good IT expert to become a CTA? No.
Okay, this makes sense. You've got to love problem solving to excel in a technical role like this, since CTAs work on a wide range of requirements from customers. You have to understand kind of everything on the Salesforce platform. This could be from Pardot, Field Service Lightning, CPQ, and as we continue to grow the Salesforce platform, you're going to need to know those new products that come out pretty much every year. Actually, now that I think about it, I check some of these boxes, right? I've got 13 certifications, 5 years of experience. Johann, what do you think? Do you think I'm ready? Can I just go for it on a whim?
The follow-up question I often get from people is something, I have 10 years of experience, 20 certs or something, like, I'm ready. I will go for the board in 3 months. Whatever you did so far up to the CTA, it doesn't prepare you for what the CTA actually is about. If you have your prerequisites, like something like 15 to 20 certs, you have 5 to 10 years of experience in different areas, especially in bigger orgs, it definitely sets you up for success. It doesn't replace the 500 to 1,000 hours you have to spend on studying on top of that. The CTA exam is so much harder than anything you have done so far. It's a review board question scenario. So you really have to talk to people. You have to defend your solution. You have to be creative. You have to work under time pressure. A multiple choice test is nothing in comparison. And you have to be able to think in a broad picture, like your integration architecture or your system landscape, but you also have to know limits, like what's the maximum of leads which can come from the website via web to lead, and what happens if you hit that limit. And this leads me to the second follow-up question I get from a lot of people. Is there a shortcut? No, there is none. There is some people who are really smart, they can do it faster. There's some people who are really prepared because they have been doing Salesforce architecture for 10 to 20 years. They can do it faster, but you have to sit down and you have to study. Even the best in our field, like Steve Baines or Carl, they had to study to go for the CTA review board. And most of these people have mentors. I have a slightly different opinion there. I think a mentor is really helpful, and a lot of people ask me to become mentor. I think it's not necessary anymore to have a mentor. It's a nice to have, but since we have now stuff out there like Flow Republic, which basically provides you a mentor as a service with Sebastian as a great mentor or his coaches. You have study groups which help you to grow. You can have something like Latest Be Architects or the Cyma group, which help you to grow and to learn. You can do a lot on yourself. So the classical mentorship is not required anymore. So don't wait until you find a mentor. Get started right now.
Did he say 500 plus hours of studying? I could barely study for my algebra tests in college, and this isn't some simple multiple choice test. There's a review board. You've got to know the platform inside and out, and that requires you to learn some things and study some things that you haven't touched before. But what's the payoff, right? Why would anybody want to spend this much time for one Salesforce certification?
Why would anyone want to become a CTA? There's different reasons. It gives you instant credibility. So people just know what you're capable of since you achieved that goal. You are capable of reading documentation, reading requirements really fast. You are capable of making these translating these requirements into a Salesforce solution. And it opens up a lot of doors. So a lot of people become something like a leadership position after they go for the CTA, like tech lead or senior architect. Some become CTOs or CEOs. Some of them actually stay admins or developers. So there's everything in between, but you get the option to do whatever you want. And you become part of an amazing community of other CTAs, which is really helpful. It's really fun to hang out with these people to discuss on a certain level about Salesforce issues. In the past, in order to get a proper CTA architect job, you had to sign up with one of the big SIs. I see more and more customers actually hiring in-house CTAs or architects, which I think is very valuable. I think you should not only rely on your SI or ISV partner, you should also have in-house talent who helps you architect your solution on the long run. So I think once you become a CTA, and of course your income increases. I mean, you ask how much money they can make. It depends on so many factors. It's really hard to tell. I always recommend people ask your headhunter of choice. Headhunters usually have a really good knowledge of the market. They can very realistically tell you what you can expect. I can only talk about myself, that my salary or my value, market value increased by about 25 to 30%. So it's quite substantial. And I see often that if you don't go for the CTA, many people, same was true for me, stagnate at a certain income level, and the CTA just helps you to achieve the next goal. It's a lot like the MBA.
Did he say 20%? Imagine getting one certification bumping you up that much. And this is in his experience, like he said before, so mileage may vary, but it's also opening up new doors and opportunities that you did not have before. But becoming CTA isn't for everybody, right? What are some other avenues that you can take to achieve professional success?
There is alternatives to the CTA. I think not everybody needs to go for it, and not everybody Should go for it. The good news is Salesforce is opening up more and more alternative routes. So one route I definitely see is something like a tech lead or a super senior developer. You don't necessarily become a better developer because you go for the CTA. Yes, you become a better developer in some way, but not in other ways. So I think if you like to be coding and create the best code ever and the best algorithm, stay in development, become a tech lead, just train yourself continuously on becoming better there. Unfortunately, there's no certificate. There's nothing like the CTA for developers. Then, of course, you can always go into management. There's always management positions. There's always also something like leadership positions, which is not limited to managing people, but thought leaders within companies. I think, again, coming back here.com had a good concept there of you didn't have to manage people in order to be a leader. And you can start your own company. This is also a great alternative. I think you probably learn more in your own company in the first month than you learn for the CTA, but this is completely different skills. So think about yourself. What do you like to do? The good thing about the CTA is it's a fixed path. There is a study guide, there is a scorecard, there is a trail you can follow. There is something like Flow Republic, which really prepares you. So it's this also, I think, drew me to becoming a CTA. I knew what to do. And you ask here in the interview questions, where do I see the future of the Salesforce ecosystem? I've been part of this ecosystem now for about 8 years. Especially in Germany, we're always a little bit behind. I've been growing it up from super small projects with like 5 to 15 users and one admin for 2 weeks to massive enterprise projects. I think one of the biggest projects globally is now currently done here in Berlin. I see more and more professionalism. I think the time of, or we become more much mature as any industry, as any IT industry. Best practices start to supersede trial and error. We know now how to architect a data model. It's not anything anymore I have to come up with myself. I usually don't come up with my own data model, for example. I look at best practices, how other people have solved something, and then I just follow along. And therefore, I think we get more and more professionals instead of the old school cowboys. So this also means that the value or the necessity for studying becomes more and more important. So where in the past you could get by just being ahead of the customer for a week or maybe a day, which was when I started out, becomes different. So if I today sign up for, let's say, a field service lighting project, I would make sure that I know everything I can get. I reasonably know about field service lighting before I start the project with the customer. Because if I don't do that, the project will not be a success. I will be stressed. The customer will be success. So I see the future in the Salesforce ecosystem in becoming a more professional. We are already pretty professional, but even more professional, more mature ecosystem. And I see a big, more and more shift towards a true global ecosystem, a true global HANA. I can only talk for myself, but before the Corona COVID situation, I was limited to mostly Germany or Europe. In Europe, we had a pretty strong ecosystem already because of the dreaming events. Big shout out to all organizers of community events there. Thanks very much for the effort you put in. But now since Corona, it became a truly global community. I have contact, or I can join user group meetings from around the world now. It's so amazing. Oftentimes I forget to ask people when they are on the call where they're from, and at some point they realize, oh, you're from Indonesia, oh, you're from the US, oh, East Coast, West Coast. It doesn't even matter anymore. We are all in it together.
Really great food for thought here. The Salesforce Ohana continues to grow every day, and I'm hooked. I want to become a CTA. Johann, do you have any advice for somebody like me, either just getting started or somebody on the CTA journey already?
If you want to become a CTA and you are start out, whatever situation you're right now, first thing you should be doing is start to interact with the community. The CTA is something you will not be achieving alone. You need a support network around you. You need people you can call up and ask questions, to get feedback, to judge you, to give you honest feedback, to help you out if you're stuck. And following up there, this is something I have been doing, which might sound a little counterintuitive to especially, I think, American listeners. Work less and study more. This concept, I have been following this concept for the last 6 or 7 years now. This is something my first manager actually told me. My first manager told me there's no better return of investment than studying, learning, continuously improvement. So I personally invest at least 8 hours a week into studying. And since I don't want to work 50, 60 hours a week, I reduced my working time. And so if you want to go for the CTA, try to carve out some real niches for studying. Try to get an hour every day, or as I do it, one day every week, where you do nothing else but studying. Yes, it hurts you financially on the short term, but it sets you up success on the long term. Learning, studying always pays off. As we learned back in university, learning always has a positive return of investment. And this also leads to how to study. This, on the one hand, be focused, try to make up your goal. Do you want to become the best developer? Then study towards development. Do you want to become a CTA? Then study towards the CTA. But at the same time, don't stop looking around. Don't be curious. If you find something interesting and you want to, for half a year, which happened to me, for half a year, I was super interested in coding. So I programmed a lot. I didn't study anything for the CTA. It was like 2 years ago. Do it. Go for it. It should be fun after all. I mean, it should be a balance between what interests you and what leads you to your goal. And everybody has to find it themselves. And this is also what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about learning and becoming better. But there's a second topic I'm passionate about. The Salesforce Ohana, the Salesforce ecosystem is different than any other IT ecosystem out there. I know. There's one thing which sets us truly apart. It's our diversity. Salesforce ecosystem is not only white guys like me. It's from all different backgrounds, from all different ethnicities, from all different ages. I just had a call with somebody the other day, which started out to become a Salesforce developer at the age of 50 or something. And there's a lot of women in our ecosystem. I'm a super happy that Salesforce supports queer people out of personal interest there. This makes our ecosystem truly amazing. But I'm also passionate about it, and I also see the limitations there. I think we still have to do a lot of work to fight discrimination every day. Each of us, I think I have to do a little bit more because I'm so privileged to fight it in every meeting, in every presentation, in every user group we have to make the Salesforce ecosystem even better than it is already today. And this I want to use as a closing remark for the presentation, for the interview. Thank you very much, Warren, for having me. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm super happy to be contacted on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube. Please don't hesitate. I'm always up for a chat. Doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter your experience. Again, just last week, I had a really, really amazing call with somebody who just started out with Salesforce 6 months ago. And you wouldn't believe it, but this person gave me career advice, which was more valuable than most of the stuff I got in the last couple of months. You never know where the great nuggets of wisdom come from. So please chat me up. Please contact me on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, whatever feels fit for you. And this concludes my interview for today. Thank you very much, Warren, for having me. Thank you so much. It was amazing. And I'm looking forward to seeing the video on YouTube. Bye.
Amazing. Take time every day to do better. Fighting discrimination and showing people of all walks of life that they can achieve any goal that they set their mind out to is what this channel is all about. Maybe focused on Salesforce, but you can get the overall general picture. It's not about, what you look like, where you were born. You can achieve anything if you put your mind to it. And I think that's what Johann and myself are trying to do, is just pave a way for people to be encouraged to not only have technical success in a technical field, but to do anything that they want to in life. Really great conversation with Johann, and I know we did not cover everything. And if you have questions, check the description down below where you can actually reach out to him on Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever. And if you have some questions you want to ask him, drop a comment down below and we can see if we can grab him back for a second video. Thank you all so much for watching. Making this video was amazing, and just being able to talk to somebody who has pretty much, achieved the highest rank in the Salesforce ecosystem was amazing. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. I'm Walters954, and remember, I believe in you.